Welcome everyone. On Thursday, May 15th, Visa released a communication announcing the latest Visa Acquire Monitoring Program updates. To fill us in on these updates, we've got Bart Shipkowski, the Chief Revenue Officer at Chargeback Help and Dispute Help. Bart, what exactly was announced on May 15th?
Thanks, Dan. So very happy to walk you through the key changes that Visa announced related to VAMP, where first of all, and the biggest change really, is that Visa is now counting all of the chargebacks, all of the disputes, not just the non-fraud disputes. So what this means was that the previous ratio that they were looking at for VAMP was the total count of TC40, which is the issuer reported fraud, plus the TC15, which is the issuer reported disputes or chargebacks. But the TC15s were only counting for non-fraud disputes. Now with this new announcement, Visa's counting both the TC40s on one side, which is the reported fraud, and the TC15s across all the reason codes, meaning that they're counting the fraud-related ones and the non-fraud-related ones as well. This is putting a bigger weighting on the fraud-related disputes, because in case of a fraud-related dispute, both the TC40 and the TC15 counts. Hence, it's possible to have a 2 ratio count just for one flagged fraud-related dispute. Because of that double counting of fraud-related dispute and that weighting change, Visa had to make a couple more amendments to the VAMP ratio itself. So first of all, they had to move the ratios up a little bit to account for that larger count. So the standard ratio for acquirers is moving up from a 0.3 to a 0.5. The excessive ratio is moving up from a 0.5 to a 0.7. And the merchant count to breach the VAMP ratio is moving up from 1.5 to 2.2. That will actually move back to 1.5 in 2026. So it's almost like a temporary opportunity for merchants to have a little bit of a higher count and then drop it back down, give them a year to drop back down and get their fraud under control. A couple other updates. So beforehand, their merchant needed to breach at least 1,000 cases of VAMP to actually qualify for the VAMP program. That's being moved up to 1,500 now, again, given the double counting of the fraud disputes. Because the ratio is now going to be a little bit higher, the fees are dropping or are being adjusted a little bit as well. So for the standard program, the acquirer will be charged $4 instead of the $5 if they breach it. For the excessive program, the acquirer will be charged $8 instead of $10. And if the merchant exceeds, then again, the acquirer will be charged $8 instead of $10, as in the previous one. And the last update that's worth mentioning, I would say here, is micro merchants are being removed from the ratio. So any merchant that has less than 5 total count of VAMP per month will not be included in the acquirer's ratio.
Well, thanks for that, Bart. So what do these updates really mean for acquirers, merchants, and other businesses? What are the key things for them to make note of?
Yeah, so to answer that, I think it's key to understand where is Visa coming from in bringing VAMP into fruition and really making these adjustments in the first place. And it is our understanding that the core principle behind changing the fraud and the chargeback monitoring programs to a single consolidated VAMP program has 3 key purposes. First of all, to remove cardholder friction. Visa is really trying to make sure that the cardholders understand what they're making purchases for and that they are not experiencing less friction when it comes to their interaction with merchants. The second thing Visa is trying to do is they're trying to streamline and really simplify the way that the acquirers and the merchants are being monitored into a single consolidated program, just to make it a little bit easier for everyone to understand exactly where they sit on that in their relationship with the acquirers and in the relationship with Visa. And last but not least, they're trying to double down on fraud, right? So they're trying to push fraud out of the ecosystem by putting a little bit more of a magnifying glass on the fraud-related disputes themselves.
Thanks, Bart. So what do businesses need to do now in order to prepare for the incoming changes?
That's the golden question, right? We'd all like to know exactly what to do next. So I think it's very important to kind of follow up with what Visa's trying to do. So again, we mentioned that first of all, they're trying to remove friction. So one thing that the merchant should do is look at their business, look at the cardholder purchase experience and see what is a part of that process that could be causing some of that friction. Maybe my terms and conditions are not so clear. Maybe what I'm actually purchasing is not so simple for the cardholder to understand. Maybe my billing descriptor is not so clear for them to see on their bank statement whom I actually made that purchase with, right? So I think that's definitely one aspect of it, is just clarifying the experience to reduce some of those first-party fraud cases out of the ecosystem. On top of that, the merchants can also use solutions like Order Insight and Consumer Clarity to share data through the rails of those solutions to the issuers to be able to provide digital receipts and contact information for their customer services team, and a full-fledged data source in terms of exactly what was purchased and who the cardholder purchased it from, to try to, again, get rid of some of that descriptor confusion aspect out of the ecosystem, right? Visa is providing some tools like Compelling Evidence 3.0 for merchants to actually contest some of the first-party cases by providing data points to Visa and to the issuer and showing them that it was actually the cardholder that made the purchase. As we understand it, Visa will continue to make adjustments to the Compelling Evidence program with additional rule sets being added throughout time to, again, be able to give merchants the ability to prove they're in the right in cases where there's cardholder abuse happening as well. But on the flip side, it's interesting because all of the TC40s are now added into the ratio, inclusive of the fraud ones. That's putting back the pre-dispute solutions, the commonly known as alerting solutions, such as Verify RDR, Verify CDRN, Ethica alerts, back on the table in terms of their ability to really get rid of some of the cardholder friction by issuing a refund up front and not having those filed against the merchant towards the TC15 or the chargeback count, right? So going back to your question, what should merchants do? I think they should relook at the life cycle of a transaction with a cardholder. To reduce the friction. They should employ some of these tools that Visa's offering, as well as competing products out there as well, to be able to reduce that friction and protect their businesses. But of course, we're always happy to have a conversation with any acquirer or merchant that's curious to understand a little bit more and how these solutions could help them in their specific use case. So very happy to connect with anyone interested.
Well, thank you for that, Bart. For anyone with questions about VAMP or other chargeback, dispute, or fraud-related issues, please reach out to Chargeback Help or Dispute Help at any time. We'd be happy to help. Until then, see you next time.